In November of 2012, my wife and I, we were looking for a place to live. We came down to Shawanaga, and Wayne Pemagewin was cheap. So we had like an impromptu meeting. We just kind of showed up, and he accepted us into the meeting, or into a meeting. We discussed needing a place and wanting to come here. Um, he said, well, I know somebody who's got a house that's vacant, but it needs work. And he said, the guy will probably let you live there, no problem. Yeah. So we walked out of the band office over behind the Public Works where there was a crew splitting firewood, and he introduced us to Jordan Paywis. So we talked with Jordan for a few minutes. Wayne went back to his office. We came here. We looked at the house. And it was like, okay, well, it needs work. You know. So Jordan agreed to do a 1-year lease with us. And instead of paying rent, we were going to try and fix up the house, do some cleaning of the yard. We were okay with that. We got here December 4th of 2012. We had the U-Haul, we had all our possessions, and there was no hydro. There was no running water. There was no heat. The house was completely full of the previous owner's possessions. So we spent first 2 weeks living in that camper right there, the one with the gold trim. It was parked right there, and luckily it did snow, because that was the only way we had water to be able to do some things. I'd take the snow, put it in a pot, and have the pot on a fire I had outside, and we'd have water to do certain things. We had to buy water for drinking, but at least we had water to be able to flush a toilet. You know. So after about 2 weeks, the temperature dropped down to minus 20. The furnace in the freezer, or the furnace in the camper, froze solid. So I had to spend 8 hours just going in the house, grabbing stuff, moving it out, and we moved 2 mattresses in there. We had no heat, no running water, nothing. I had to scavenge a gas stove out of one of the derelict campers that was here. It was parked right here. And we used that to have heat in the house and to be able to cook our meals. Because other than that, there was nothing in the house. And over the next year, working several hours a day, I was able to clean up a lot of the stuff that was here. Google Maps shows a picture of it, and this place was essentially a dump, because a lot of the stuff that was salvaged, at one point, yes, it was good. You could have built a house with it, but being out in the elements over the years, it just went terrible. So spent the first year just trying to clear out enough place for us to be able to do things. And worked it out with Jordan for another year. And it just got to the point we put so much into this place. The master bedroom, right above the window in the roof, there was no insulation. So you had cold air coming in, meeting the warm air, and it was just a waterfall coming down the wall. There was so much mold and mildew that when I started pulling down the drywall, I noticed they did a bit of a false ceiling. They did 1x3 strapping, put plastic, and then drywall. Well, everything got moldy. When I pulled it down, it was pathways that mice were running around the ceiling with, and they were shitting all over the place. I'm a very vocal person. When something isn't right, I speak up about it. And going to the council meetings, it got to the point hardly anybody was going. But I was telling people what was going on at the meetings. I'd record it, and I would share it with anybody who wanted it. but I always made sure people knew what was going on. It made it harder for chief and council to do all these quick deals, without letting the community know what's going on. So it got to the point there where they started saying I couldn't record these meetings. Well, if you're transparent and accountable, you have no problem with people recording what you're doing. You're open, you're honest. But they didn't want that. Even got to the point where they tried to have me arrested several times for recording. So it got to the point there where Wayne would use Jordan to come after us. He would try and get Jordan to evict us, remove us from the property. And after a while, we'd smooth things out with Jordan. Wayne didn't like that. So as we kept going, and I'm trying to push these issues to get answers, Wayne's looking at coming after us legally. He's looking at trying to evict us from a house that Shawanaga doesn't own. He's going to use the courts to come after us. So he's violating the private homeowners policy. Well, when that didn't work, and the residency procedure wouldn't work because they weren't following it themselves, they decided they'd buy the house and kick us out that way. Okay, you want us out? Fine. We've done about $65,000 worth of work to the house, the yard, and it's not hard to see it as that. For $65,000 over an 8-year period, it's $8,000 a year, $677 a month. 30 days a month to take that down, that's a little over 2 hours labor a day. Most people travel back and forth to work on that. Coffee break, lunch break. It's not hard to do 2 hours of work a day. Plus, your gas to bring all the refuse that was here to the dump, wear and tear in the vehicle, mold remediation, because it isn't, you just pull stuff down. If there's mold in the walls, you got to deal with it. So we had horse liniment, which is excellent for mold, spraying that all over the place, running the hair dryer and the heat gun to kill it. We had so much invested in it that if we had that money to invest in our own home, and we put that time into our own home, we'd have a place. But trying to get a piece of land when Wayne's cheap and he doesn't like you, not going to happen. So we put in multiple requests for emergency housing, multiple requests for a piece of land. We got nothing. You want us out? Give us what we've got into this so we can at least build our own home or find somewhere off reserve. They refused to give us a dime. They kept pushing and pushing, and finally it ended up in court. Now, in court, they committed perjury. Perjury under the Criminal Code, Section 131, Sub 1, deals with submitting false affidavits to the courts. Adam Good's name is on those affidavits. And they said that we showed up and squatted. But yet, also in their affidavit, they produced the rental agreement between us and Jordan for a year. You go through the newsletters. Wayne is attacking me, saying he never should have brought me here and set up the rental. Okay. Then they say we had no running water and no hydro. Well, I got satellite dishes. Those don't run off of air. Well, like you can't power them with just air, you need hydro. Got a hydro meter on the house, hydro lines to the house. We've had hydro in this house since January 2nd, 2013, which we had to do. We had to go through the electrical system, had to do repairs, replacement, so that when the hydro inspector come in, he would pass the house. We got it. January 2nd of 2013, we finally had hydro. Water, December 19th of 2012. Mike Cadeau from Public Works, when he was there, came in. He dug up the line, found the break in the line, and repaired it. We had water. December 19th, and we've been here since December 4th. That was our first shower in 2 weeks, was when we finally had running water. Aaron Wheatley was our acting fire chief. I come by the one night and seen that I had a fire going out back. Once he found out we had no hydro or anything, he went to the fire hall, grabbed a generator, brought it down, got it fully gassed, and brought it back to us. I hooked the generator into the house, got the hot water tank going. We have a hot shower over 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Okay? So when they say no hydro, no running water, that was true in the beginning. But that wasn't our fault. That was Wayne's fault and Jordan's fault, because they didn't have the basics set to the house. So they applied to the judge over this. We've got a text from Adam, or back and forth with Adam Good, complaining about the water. It's coming out of the tap ground. He sent the water guy over to inspect the water, to test it. If we don't have running water now, why are you sending the water guy over to test it? So, unfortunately, with the lies they had, our lawyer wasn't properly prepared for the hearing because he had short notice. So when everything went in front of the judge, their side played it as it's a simple thing. We're not supposed to be there. We own the house. We want it. Well, the judge bought that. If we'd had our information in front of the judge, we could have proved through numerous Shawanaga First Nation newsletters we were here legally. Could have proved through the rental agreement with Jordan Paywis. He rented the house to us. Could have proved with hydro bills that we've had hydro since January 2nd of 2013. We could have proven that they knew we had water with the text with Adam Good. And the land, this is Keakato homestead land. This is land that was given to Francis Nebnionquid for service in the War of 1812. There were a couple of land grants around here. Over there is Jacob's farm, 103 acres. Got the survey map to prove it. Over there, Solomon's farm. That was another 100-acre land grant, which Shawanaga is taking. Then over there is the Black Skies. I'm not going to try and say the name, the Ojibwe name, or Potawatomi name, I should say. But he was the chief and signatory to the Robinson Huron Treaty. We have the Keakato homestead, and then quite possibly the Mesquatas homestead of another 100 acres. These were families that provided valuable service to Canada in the War of 1812, protecting it. Wayne Pamajuan and his family have desecrated all that. Doesn't matter what paperwork you bring. And I've got over 160 pages of documentation to prove not only Keakato homestead, but Jacob's farm. They say it doesn't exist. They refuse to listen. And this is one way to shut me up. Get me out of here. Take the house away. Not provide me with any place to live. Not give me a piece of land that I can start building on my own. Because to build a house, labor is what kills. That's the most expensive thing when building a house. If you can get the materials and do it yourself, you can build a nice house for about a third the price of what you get in town. It's labor that costs.